Tonight,
they call it the impeachment hoax.
the president is touting a tremendous week after a marathon of impeachment hearings.
There is nothing more dangerous than an unethical president who believes they are above the law.
What's next in the impeachment process on Capitol Hill?
Democrats have struggled to make the case.
And
you'll get the report.
The unveiling of a bombshell investigation could change the calculus in Washington.
And Tesla unveils its new Cybertruck.
Oh my God.
With a bang.
All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
A whirlwind week in Washington wraps up. Welcome, Faith Nation, everybody, and thanks for joining us. I'm Jenna Browder.
And I'm John Jessup. Tonight, the president is attacking Democrats, witnesses, and the whistleblower over the public impeachment hearings.
He's also focused on the unveiling of a potentially explosive report on the origins of the Russia probe. And then there is 2020, of course.
CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joins us from the North Lawn with the latest. Ben?
Well, John and Jenna, today President Trump said, "Bring it on," telling Fox News that he wants a trial and that also he knows the identity of the whistleblower.
Should the whistleblower be fired, Mr. President?
What whistleblower? I don't think there is.
Democrats disagree, crediting the whistleblower for the tip on the infamous July 25th call with Ukraine's president, which sparked an impeachment inquiry. At the center, allegations the president froze aid to Ukraine to force an investigation into Joe Biden's son. Calling it a false report, Trump told Fox and Friends he wants the whistleblower to testify.
I know exactly who it is. Everybody does.
Is he still there?
Media.
Is he still there? Does he go to meetings? Does he go to meetings?
And by the way, you know who the whistleblower is, too. Otherwise, you're not doing your job.
President Trump announced he's now pushing for a Senate trial should the House impeach him. This move would allow Republicans to call their own witnesses, including Hunter Biden.
There's only one person I want more than where's Hunter, and that is Adam Schiff.
Schiff has brought in a wide range of witnesses, including fired U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch.
This ambassador that, everybody says is so wonderful, she wouldn't hang my picture in the embassy, okay? She's in charge of the embassy. She wouldn't hang it. It took like a year and a half or 2 years for her to get the picture up. She said bad things about me. She wouldn't defend me, and I have the right to change an ambassador.
Trump called her an Obama person and predicts the upcoming FISA report will be historic.
I predict will be perhaps the biggest scandal in the history of our country, political scandal. But I guess that's the biggest, because what's more important
What
than
are you talking about? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
I think you're going to see things that are going to be incredible if it's done right. And I purposely stay out. I tell Bill Barr to handle everything.
Now, that FISA report President Trump is talking about is set to be released in December. Then we'll learn more about the allegations of a former foreign Intel Surveillance Act war and abuse during the 2016 election. John, Jenna?
Ben Kennedy at the White House. Thanks, Ben. Well, with us now is Jenna Ellis, legal analyst for the Trump 2020 campaign. Jenna, thanks for being with us.
So great to join you both.
Well, both the president and his defenders have been talking up the IG report. How significant do you think it'll be to the Trump 2020 re-election campaign?
I think it's going to be significant just for America in general, because we've all been waiting for answers. We've all seen these attacks against President Trump that really have no basis whatsoever. And I think that America is very tired of thinking that there is a difference in terms of equal protection under the law, regardless of whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. And so I think for the American people, it's going to be really important and significant to see what this report contains, and for the Attorney General to actually follow through on this.
Jenna, on impeachment, talk to us about the campaign strategy. How much focus will be on impeachment?
Well, I hope that the Democrats will see that there's really no legal or constitutional basis and will decide to just end this impeachment circus. And we've seen that Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi are very concerned with how the charges are in the polls, and they've had focus groups. I mean, nothing that's actually constitutional or a legal basis. And so in terms of moving forward with this, I think that it's very important for the American public to realize that impeachment is not just a political process. There has to be a very clear standard of law in Article 2, Section 4 that lays out very specifically the nature of the charges. It can't just be whatever Adam Schiff wants it to be.
How much of these impeachment hearings, though, been really a rallying cry for Trump's base?
Yeah, and I think that we've seen that, and the internal RNC polling actually reflects the public polling as well, that President Trump has risen significantly in terms of his approval ratings, and also even a third of Democrats are wanting an investigation into Joe Biden. So it came across very clearly, I think, to the American people that this is just an impeachment circus. This is something that the Democrats are moving forward with as their next hashtag resistance, to simply try to oust a sitting U.S. president and undermine the will of the American people. We, the people, voted him into office, and we, the people, are the only ones that should be focused on 2020. It should not be the 4 votes of Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff and the other high-ranking Democrats that should undermine our will just because they hate Trump.
Jenna, real quickly here, if you can, the president says that he wants a Senate trial on impeachment. How much would that benefit him and also the re-election process, or the re-election gambit?
Yeah, well, if the Democrats decide to move forward with this impeachment circus, I think it's going to be very clear in a trial that there's absolutely no legal basis for this, and it's going to come across very clearly. And, President Trump has been attacked consistently since he won the primary in 2015, and there have been so many targets that are just absolutely malicious, nothing to them. And so for him to come out and just say, you know what, bring it on, I'm ready, I think that attitude just shows that there is nothing here. But let's also remember, this is the Democrats' obligation legally to prove their case. We don't want to burden shift and say that it's an obligation of President Trump to defend himself, because let's remember, he's doing such a fantastic job for the American people as well. He stands so firm on pro-life, which I know is very, very important to Christians. And I think it's our obligation as well to vote in this election to not be dissuaded by the public opinion that Adam Schiff wants to present when there's no constitutional basis.
All right, Jenna Ellis with the Trump 2020 campaign. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, round 1 of the public impeachment hearing is over, but we have yet to get the general public scorecard. Lawmakers heading home for Thanksgiving will get to see where their constituents stand. Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson looks back at the highlights from this week's hearings.
With Democrats in the majority, the House likely has the votes to impeach the president, but the jury is still out on how the American voters feel.
Everyone was in the loop.
Chairman Adam Schiff described the testimony of EU Ambassador Gordon Sondland as the most significant to date, after he linked top officials like Vice President Mike Pence and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to Ukraine policy.
As I testified previously, Mr. Giuliani's requests were a quid pro quo for arranging a White House visit for President Zelensky. Mr. Giuliani demanded that Ukraine make a public statement announcing the investigations of the 2016 election, DNC server, and Burisma.
But Sondland maintained he never got a directive from the president.
My testimony is I never heard from President Trump that aid was conditioned on an announcement of elections.
And recounted on a phone call that he asked Trump point blank what he wanted from Ukraine.
He said, I want nothing. I want no quid pro quo. I just want Zelensky to do the right thing, to do what he ran on her.
Leading the president to declare exoneration.
I want nothing. That's what I want from Ukraine. That's what I said. I want nothing. I said it twice.
Fiona Hill, a longtime diplomat who reported to former National Security Advisor John Bolton, testified it was clear Sondland and President Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, were on a domestic errand in Ukraine.
Rudy Giuliani was a hand grenade that was going to blow everyone up.
Adding career diplomats were very alarmed by his actions.
He was clearly pushing forward issues and ideas that would, probably come back to haunt us. And in fact, I think that that's where we are today.
On the Hill, Republicans seem united with the president, while Democrats feel confident they have the goods, setting the stage for what could be a House impeachment, but a not guilty verdict in the Senate, where they would need a supermajority to remove President Trump from office. Reporting from Washington, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
And here now to discuss, Hallie Jackson, Chief White House Correspondent for NBC News and host of MSNBC Live with Hallie Jackson. Hallie, thanks for stopping by.
Such a pleasure. Thank you for having me for my first time here.
We'd love to have you here. First off, we shouldn't bury the lead. You just received an award, and I think we have a picture.
Oh, you guys.
You received the Alan B. Dumont Broadcaster of the Year Award. We should say congratulations to you on that.
Thank
and
you
also,
so much.
You follow in really good company because I believe Lester Holt received that award not too long ago.
He did. Thank you. It was wonderful. Montclair State University and talking with the students up there. We were actually talking a little bit ago, so inspiring to see this next generation of journalists so hungry and so optimistic about the future of the business we're all in.
Yeah. Well, much deserved. Okay, we do want to talk about some news of the day.
Of course.
Former National Security Advisor John Bolton, he had some pretty cryptic tweets today. There's this one. The White House, quote, refused access to my personal Twitter account out of fear of what I may say. Hallie, what is Ambassador Bolton teasing here?
Nobody really knows for sure, right? He seems to be alluding to the possibility that perhaps the White House got him blocked offline for some reason. President Trump this morning responded to this. He was asked about, and I think you used the right word, Jenna, cryptic. We don't know what these tweets are all about, but the president says that he had nothing to do with that. And then he went on to say something that I found really interesting. He says, I have a good relationship with John Bolton. Now, I've covered this White House since day one, and I don't know you'd find a lot of people who say that the president and his national security advisor had a very good relationship towards the end. So I think it's kind of interesting to hear the president say that. I think some of it may relate to the speculation that you're hearing from Capitol Hill. Might John Bolton come forward and testify in these impeachment proceedings? The sources that our teams are talking to seem to think that's very unlikely at this point, but you are seeing John Bolton seeming to try to keep himself in the public eye and in the spotlight here.
And as you mentioned before, he does have a book coming out.
He sure does have I believe so, book deal at least. Yeah.
All right. Well, both sides seem to be claiming victory this week on impeachment, but the public opinion doesn't seem to be shifting much. How much will that be a concern for both Republicans and Democrats?
I can tell you what the White House is looking at most closely, not just the public opinion piece, but specifically the opinion of the senators who are on the Republican side sitting in that chamber. Because the magic number, as you both know, is 20. So if they don't think that 20 senators on the Republican side will break ranks, in effect, there's not much to worry about. I think that there are a lot of people that I talk to in and around the White House who look at the landscape of these impeachment proceedings and understand that it is somewhat likely, it is pretty likely that the president is going to end up on the receiving end of a vote on articles of impeachment, maybe sometime before Christmas. We're talking in the next month here. But remember, unless the Senate votes to convict and, in essence, remove the president from office, it is not going to have a material impact on the president's day-to-day duties as leader, other than from the sort of political screen of it.
Democrats do want this wrapped up by Christmas. Hallie, how likely do you think it will be wrapped up by then? That's coming up fast.
It's coming up quick, but it does seem within the realm of possibility the way the timing works out. I think some people have the misperception that, okay, they're going to vote tomorrow on these articles of impeachment. That's not what happens. The House Intelligence Committee puts together a report. Then it goes to the House Judiciary Committee. Remember, this is unprecedented. It doesn't typically work like this. The Judiciary sort of takes the second piece of this. Then they may have their own hearing, for example, bringing in constitutional scholars, not fact witnesses, but people to put this in the scope of history, and then put together the articles of impeachment that the House would vote on. So we still have several weeks to go. There is, I think, an incentive to wrap it up sort of for Democrats before Christmas, and I think that's what Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell on that side is expecting as well, that the Senate, if they were to receive these articles, would do so after the new year.
We can't let you leave without addressing something here. President Trump frequently attacks the media. You know this. How do you approach your job or doing your job in the age of President Trump?
I think it's the way that all journalists approach their job, right? Our jobs are to hold people in power to account and to seek the truth every day. And you have to focus like a laser on that. I think that sometimes it can be tempting to get wrapped up in the personality piece of this. I think that the phrase fake news, enemies of the people, that is dangerous rhetoric. But I know that when I'm face to face with the president on the South Lawn or in the Oval Office in my duties as a reporter for NBC, we are laser focused on how do we get an answer from the president on this major and important issue of the day? And how can I really hone in on that to make sure that we are serving not just our viewers, but the American public as their representatives the best that we possibly can?
All right, Hallie Jackson with NBC News. So good to have you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for the work you do. Coming up, the highly anticipated Inspector General report that threatens to shake up Washington. That story next.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel. Now available at cbnradio.com.
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres Cedillo, Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
Being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
By sharing their knowledge.
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
And their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
President Trump is teasing to what could be an explosive report out next month that gives new details into the origins of the Russia probe.
That investigation centers on a report from the Justice Department's Inspector General set to be released in early December. CBN News national security correspondent Eric Phillips has more on what the president calls a disgrace.
President Trump did not mince words, saying the IG report will reveal blockbuster details on efforts to derail his presidency before voters even went to the polls.
And they were spying on my campaign, and it went right up to the top, and everybody knows it, and now we're going to find out.
And according to Senator Lindsey Graham, that will be
December the 9th, you'll get the report.
December the 9th. That's locked.
That's locked.
Graham adds that 2 days later, Inspector General Michael Horowitz will testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee, which Graham chairs. That investigation looks into how the FBI conducted its probe into alleged Trump campaign ties to Russia. A key part of that, did someone in the FBI falsify documents to obtain warrants for surveillance on campaign advisor Carter Page?
There has been a continued cover-up to this very day. We still don't have the truth, but hopefully we'll get that soon.
This was an overthrow attempt at the presidency. They tried to overthrow the presidency. This is a disgrace.
The IG office reviewed more than 1 million records and conducted more than 100 interviews as part of their investigation. The president teasing that he expects something groundbreaking.
The information that we have now is beyond belief already. But what they have coming out, I hear, is historic.
During the phone interview, Trump said the Russia probe and the impeachment process combined is what he calls the greatest political scandal in the history of the country, orchestrated by the highest levels of the Democratic Party. In Washington, Eric Phillips, CBN News.
All right, thank you, Eric. Joining us now, CBN News chief political analyst David Brody. David, early in the program, Jenna Ellis told us how significant she thought this IG report would be. Do you agree that the findings will be central to the Trump campaign's re-election campaign heading into 2020?
Depends how big. It depends what the information is exactly in the IG report. It'll be a layer for sure. I mean, we know about the anonymous op-ed. Remember that, and remember the leaks that are coming out, and Tillerson and Rex Tillerson and John Kelly with Nikki Haley, which she says all this feels very deep state-ish. Right. And here we go with the potential abuse of the FISA warrant. That becomes a layer in that central narrative going forward in 2020.
David, the findings in this report could call into question the entire justification for the Russia probe.
Oh, 100%. I mean, this is all about Carter Page and the fact that they started this FISA warrant on Carter Page, but was it really kosher, if you will, to begin with? I mean, should they have really done that? And so I think that's the big question. Let's also remember there were 3 FISA warrants actually issued for Carter Page, 90 days. Each one lasted 90 days. So if there was something that shouldn't have even happened in the first place, if this FISA warrant should never have happened in the first place, that leads to this idea that maybe there wasn't justification for this, and it happened 3 separate times. We'll see if James Comey's name comes up in this. That'll be interesting.
Well, as Jenna just mentioned, the roots go back to the Russia investigation. Do Republicans believe that the IG report will prove what President Trump was saying was right, that the Mueller investigation was a hoax and a witch hunt?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I think that that's what they hope will happen, but whether or not this is going to go to that full sweeping enchilada, I'm not convinced. I think John Durham's report that's coming out that is more sweeping in terms of looking at all the FBI and the CIA intelligence gathering, that's going to be even bigger than this one. I know Trump says this is the big one, it's huge. We'll wait till Durham's report.
That'll be huger and
That'll
bigger.
be huger if that's, I'm going to look that up in the dictionary, yes.
David, just a few seconds left here, but the president has long called for an investigation into the investigators. Could this report lead to criminal charges against some Democratic lawmakers?
Depends how big it is. I don't think Democrat lawmakers know. Do I think FBI officials, CIA analysts? Absolutely. That's a big deal. If a CIA analyst or an FBI official is actually charged with some sort of criminal activity, big deal.
Okay, David, we have to leave it there. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Well, coming up, why the president says he might veto a bipartisan rebuke against China over Hong Kong human rights abuses.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5, Wednesday night at 9:30.
Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com to get your copy today.
The president tonight is signaling he might veto a bipartisan bill to sanction China.
That's right. This comes as American and Chinese officials continue holding talks to roll back the ongoing trade war. President Trump said he supports the pro-democracy protesters, but he also said he stands with Chinese President Xi Jinping, calling him a friend. Critics believe China is cracking down on Hong Kong's freedoms. Clashes there have reached a boiling point now 6 months in. China has warned President Trump against signing the legislation, which could threaten a deal to avoid another round of tariffs on $160 billion worth of Chinese imports.
And here with us now, George Thomas, CBN News senior international correspondent who was recently in Hong Kong covering the protests. George, the president now saying he might veto that legislation supporting human rights in Hong Kong. Does this signal that economic matters outweigh democratic rights?
Well, I mean, the president signaled just in the last hour or so that he was going to take a good look at the bill. But look, as a way to save face with his friend Xi Jinping of China, he vetoes the bill, and in all likelihood, both houses, both chambers passed the bill overwhelmingly. So the idea that the Congress can override a veto, that's going to happen. In all likelihood, this is going to become law. But I think for the president, it's a way to save face with Beijing and say, listen, I vetoed this, but it was out of my hand. And this is the way our U.S. Constitution works and gives powers to Congress to override me.
George, Mr. Trump not only suggested a veto, President Trump also said Hong Kong would, quote, be obliterated in 14 minutes if it weren't for him. You were in Hong Kong. How do you think the protesters there would feel about the president's statement?
Yeah, no, absolutely. They would not welcome such a statement, but they also know in reality a few months ago, President Xi Jinping said the following. He said, any attempt to split China will end in, quote, crushed bodies and shattered bones. They realize what the Chinese military can do. They just have to go back to 1989, June 4th, Tiananmen Square. And the last thing they want is a repeat of that in Hong Kong. And so when the president makes a comment like this, the protesters who have been demonstrating for the last 6 months, see this as a sign of, does the United States truly stand with freedom on the side? Listen, this was a deal that the Chinese made back in 1997, that for 50 years, Hong Kong would be this one country, two systems. And they have this till 2047. And so that's what they're fighting for, to be free and independent from mainland China. And they will continue to protest.
All right, George Thomas reporting in our Virginia Beach newsroom. Thank you, George.
You're welcome.
And we'll be back right after the break.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
From Washington, D.C., uncompromising stories, interviews, and analysis from veteran journalists David Brody.
Escalating fight.
Jenna Browder.
Chose his words carefully.
Ben Kennedy.
Plan to join him.
And Amber Strong.
For impeachment grows a little bit louder.
Bringing you the political news that matters.
We get out and tell the story of the progress that we're making in this country.
Watch Faith Nation, weeknights at 6 on the CBN News Channel.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
As the nations rage, you can stand with Israel.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
Call 1-800-700-7000 and get to life.
This is our nature as a country.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he has, which color he is, this is what I'm doing.
Support Israel in their time of need. Get to Life, now available on DVD. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
And I wish that other people throughout the world could see this side of Israel.
Welcome back. Well, Tesla, known for its electric automobiles, and eccentric CEO is getting into the truck business.
And Jenna, after today's bumpy unveiling, the company might want to upgrade its suspension, so to speak.
Oh my God.
The presentation, to some resembling more hardcore deathmatch wrestling than anything car-related, ran into a snag with its so-called unbreakable windows. Elon Musk tried to fix the shattered situation, saying, just fix it in post. The all-electric pickup reportedly can outpace a Porsche and has a starting price of just under $40,000. Jenna, that's a pretty penny.
Yeah, that looked like quite a show.
Quite a show.
Entertaining, to say the least.
Well, thanks for watching, Faith Nation.
Have a great weekend.